During World War II, Japanese armed forces captured 140,000 Allied soldiers in Southeast Asia and the Pacific. Australian Charles Edwards was one of them. Now 95 years old, he's just returned to Japan for the first time since the war. Kate Arnott reports.
We walked out the east door and we were hit by a wave of hot air, and just rising above the horizon was a mushroom-shaped cloud.
Witnessing the atomic bomb being dropped on the city of Hiroshima in 1945 is one of Charles Edwards' last memories of World War II. In 1942, he was among the first group of Australian soldiers to be captured by the Japanese, and in total he served 1,301 days as a prisoner of war, or POW. For decades, Mr Edwards remained silent about his harrowing experiences in jails, prison camps and time on the Thai-Burma Railway, where he nearly starved to death and endured life-threatening illnesses and extreme brutality.
When we came home, we were told not to talk about it, and we didn't.
It wasn't until the mid-1980s that Mr Edwards broke his silence after some stirring words from fellow prisoner of war and Australian Army surgeon Sir Edward Weary Dunlop.
He went out and gave lectures all over the place about the horrors and atrocities, and he said, why not go out and tell them? And I appeal to you all to go out and tell people, so I did just that. When I gave a lecture in the museum, one of the students that in the lecture was a Japanese, and he came to me with tears in his eyes. He said, you know, we have never ever been told of the brutality that was eked out to you prisoners.
Since World War II, students in Japan have regularly been taught about the destruction caused by the atomic bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, but they've been told little about Japan's wartime atrocities, including the treatment of POWs.
No one told me before. I didn't study about it at school, and I was shocked by this gap of perception in these two countries.
Mio Sakuma is an associate professor at a junior college on the outskirts of Tokyo. Eager to find out more, she joined the Prisoner of War Research Network of Japan, an organisation formed 10 years ago with the aim of passing on information about POWs to future generations to learn from past mistakes. Last month, the paths of Ms Sakuma and Mr Edwards crossed when he returned to Japan for the first time since the war. The Japanese government funded the trip as part of its friendship building program.
He's a great guy, and I really appreciate for ex-POWs like Mr. Edwards for sharing their stories. So I felt he's very resilient to come to Japan after experiences these bad things. So I really respect him.
Travelling with fellow ex-POWs, Charles Edwards went back to the site of the Ohama prison camp, 125 kilometres from Hiroshima. He was held there during the final months of the war.
One of the things about it, another car pulled up and an old man got out, and he was rather bent up, and he introduced himself as one of the guards that had guarded us. And he said it was the greatest day of his life to shake hands with two of his former enemies who were now his friends.
Being at the Ohama prison camp, I think everybody was trying to make a positive experience about the return. There was lots of laughter and lots of smiles.
Mr Edwards' granddaughter accompanied him on the trip, recording the significant moments on camera. The former POW wanted to go back to the prison camp site in particular because it was there with fellow prisoner Bert Kelly that he saw something he'll never forget.
Right here. All at once, without no sound, the most beautiful white light appeared, and it seemed to come in both doors, met Bert's body, flows up his body, met at the top of his head and formed a silver halo. Then all at once the vision disappeared. Bert was still there, I was still here. So we walked out the east door and we were hit by a wave of hot air. Then we looked away to the east, and just rising above the horizon was a mushroom-shaped cloud. It was a new type of bomb the Americans had just dropped on the city of Hiroshima.
I more took away how extraordinary it was to be standing there with him on the spot where he witnessed the white flash of light of the Hiroshima bomb dropping, and how that really is quite remarkable.
The trip to Japan also included many opportunities to meet and share stories with the locals, something Mr. Edwards relished.
The Japanese people were so beautiful, and they still are. They're courteous, kind, they laugh a lot. So my opinion of the Japanese people has never altered. It was only the IJA, the Imperial Japanese Army, that were brutal to us.
The Japanese government has been running the friendship building program for former POWs for the last 3 years. It's also offered them formal apologies.
These things should have been done earlier, but this is a huge step. This is a result of concerted effort by civilians, journalists, researchers, and some politicians who had helped ex-POWs come to Japan way before this friendship program started.
At 95 years old, the trip gave Mr. Edwards a sense of closure.
It sort of put an end to all my wartime experiences.
He's definitely a living treasure, that's for sure. As awful and horrific as Grandad's memories are of the past, that he could return and that we both together could see how wonderful things are today and how fortunate we are to live in the world that we live in.